It's an honor to be here. I don't know about the few appropriate remarks, though. I wish I could be brief. Prime Minister George Canning was once asked by a preacher how he enjoyed the sermon, and Canning replied, "You were brief." "Ah," said the preacher, "I like to avoid being tedious." To which the Prime Minister said, "You are also tedious." So brevity is no guarantee of success. Well, Maria Elena, you've done a great job with this group. I commend you for it, for preserving our heritage and the legacy of your dear husband. That means a lot to all of us. And I thank all of you for supporting the memory of Lincoln, especially the hard and noble work of Maria and her late husband, as we look to November 20, 1861, but in 2011, as you said, will be the anniversary. Because Abraham Lincoln, contrary to what our generation's foremost military historian, John Keegan, has written in his new American Civil War, his book, this British military historian's great book on our Civil War, Lincoln did visit his armies in the field some 11 times, and he spent 42 days in their camps. And to meet here, by the way, on this historic site, despite your wedding 52 years ago, Paul and Brenda, was Lincoln present then too? Well, this is a great, this is the great home of the original Willards, right? Where Lincoln arrived on February 23rd from Baltimore, disguised and criticized for being disguised because there was an assassination plot that had been uncovered to kill him in Baltimore when the trains transferred from one station to the other. And he greeted, didn't he, the peace conference that was going on, led by the former President Tyler. It was not successful. It couldn't be. It was too late then. And here, he revised his critical inaugural address and took some of the suggestions from his Secretary of State designate, William H. Seward, who wanted the job as president. Particularly the last two paragraphs. Remember them? "In your hands, my dissatisfied countrymen, and not in mine, is the momentous issue of civil war. The government will not assail you. You can have no conflict without being yourselves the aggressor. You have no oath registered in heaven to destroy the government, while I shall have the most solemn one to preserve, protect, and defend it. I am loath to close. We are not enemies, but friends. We must not be enemies. Though passion may have strained, it must not break our bonds of affection. The mystic cords of memory, stretching from every battlefield and patriot grave, in every living heart and hearthstone, all over this broad land, will yet swell the chorus of the Union, when again touched, as surely they will be, by the better angels of our nature." If there ever was an icon that stood for everything, it is Abraham Lincoln. He is remembered for his courage and leadership, his peacefulness and compassion, his patriotism and devotion to the Union, and his ability to lead the nation through civil war. His role in this country's collective memory is immeasurable. What we are talking about today is memory and how it is best presented by historians and writers who make the past relevant. No president has such a hold on our minds as Abraham Lincoln. He lived at the dawn of photography, and his pine cone face makes a haunting picture. He was the best writer in all American politics, and his words are even more powerful than his images. Today's politicians continue to invoke Abraham Lincoln at every opportunity. Take, for instance, President Obama, who took a page from Lincoln's book by appointing a so-called team of rivals to his cabinet. If the past is prologue for what the future holds, society can only benefit from Lincoln and the lessons that his legacy teaches us. Although Lincoln is so revered today, this was not always the case. Before his death, Lincoln was only a moderately popular president. There were times when Lincoln was the object of far more hatred than love. In the election of 1860, Lincoln took only 39% of the popular vote, the second lowest percentage of anyone ever elected to the presidency. Lincoln's popularity grew during his presidency, but he still had his critics, which included Cyrus F. McCormick, inventor of the farm reaper, and Samuel F.B. Morse, inventor of the telegraph. Probably more than 1 million voters in the North who believed in the justice of the Southern cause. Notwithstanding, Lincoln was also accumulating an increasing number of supporters. Today, Lincoln seems to be even more popular than he was immediately following his death. Reflecting on that trend, USA Today has remarked, "Yup, Abraham Lincoln is hot. Scholars say even he'd be amused. From magazine covers to the fronts of T-shirts, from book signings to museum openings, Honest Abe is center stage." Lincoln is remembered as the leader who spoke the enduring words at Gettysburg that students once memorized, the story of which is so splendidly told by Gabor Borit in his The Gettysburg Gospel. The commander-in-chief who reunited the nation by winning the Civil War, and the chief executive who was constantly ranked highest among all American presidents, thanks in part to historians and writers. Lincoln's popularity has managed to transcend both time and place because Lincoln is many things to different people. We know him, don't we, as Lincoln the lawyer, Lincoln the great emancipator, Lincoln the politician and president, Lincoln the commander-in-chief. Historians and Lincoln scholars have written not only about Lincoln and his different roles, but also about Lincoln's personal life, his marriage, his sexual preferences, his religion, and his alleged medical and psychological problems. His greatest trial, the Civil War, was the nation's greatest trial, and the race problem that caused it is still with us today. His death by murder gave his life a poignant and violent climax, and allows us to play the always fascinating game of what if. Abraham Lincoln did great things, greater than anything done by Theodore Roosevelt or Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He freed the slaves and saved the Union. And because he saved the Union, he was able to free the slaves. Beyond this, however, our extraordinary interest in him and esteem for him has to do with what he said and how he said it. And much of this had to do with the Union, what it was and why it was worth the saving. He saved it by fighting and winning the war, of course. But his initial step in this was the decision to go to war, not a popular decision, and certainly not an easy one. His predecessor, the incompetent James Buchanan, believed that the states had no right to secede from the Union, but there was nothing he could do about it if they did. Thus, by the time Lincoln took office, 7 southern states had seceded, and nothing had been done about it. Led by South Carolina, they claimed to be doing only what they and the others had done in 1776.